Today, we're talking about bike weight and some of the brutal truths surrounding this controversial topic in the mountain bike world. Most riders instinctively think a lighter bike is gonna climb faster, accelerate easier, and just be funner to ride. It's a selling point you see in the marketing hype all the time. Carbon frames, carbon wheels, lightweight components, all tied to the idea that a lighter bike equals better performance. But in my experience, a heavier bike can actually perform better if that weight is in the right place on the bike. So in this video, I'm gonna break it all down, including some of the brutal truths nobody talks about when it comes to mountain bike weight. By the way, my name is Jared Hoff, and this channel is all about cutting through the marketing hype bullshit to figure out what actually matters for the average mountain bike rider like you and like me. Now, there are basically three types of riders who care about mountain bike weight. Rider number one, the weight weenie. Their mindset is every gram counts. They'll swap out their seat post, their rotor bolts, stem bolts, anything they can do to save a few extra grams. Why do they do it? To them, a lighter bike feels faster. They're probably putting in some really long miles, and let's just be honest, they take great pride in that weight on the scale, even if it's giving them minimal performance back out there on the trail. Rider number two, the racer. For them, timing is everything. Even a marginal 1% gain, just a little bit faster acceleration, a little bit quicker around that corner means the difference between a win and a loss. So why do they care? On race day, it's all about finding every little minute advantage over those fellow racers. So even if they're not a pro, that racer, they care about weight. And then there's rider number three, the one-upper. We've all met this guy before, right? For them, it's not just a bike, it's a status symbol. You got a lighter bike? I'm gonna get one that's lighter. I'll pay as much money as I can possibly afford to, even finance a little bit, just to make sure I got the top tier bike at the shop, plus I'll deck it out with fancy upgrades that are lighter, of course. But what about the rest of us? Does weight actually matter? Let's take a closer look at my bike here, and we'll talk about three key areas where weight plays a role. Area number one, wheels and tires, that rotational weight. Now, this is an area on the bike where weight can actually play a huge role. Lighter wheels, lighter tires, a lighter overall setup is gonna spin up faster, allowing you to accelerate quicker off the line, but you have to keep in mind that those lighter tires, you're gonna get flats, pinch flats, and flats on rocks a lot easier. Lighter wheels, sometimes you can find a way to get a lighter set of wheels when you move into carbon that are still just as durable and strong. But at a certain point, lighter wheels, you're also gonna have to worry about breaking them and worry about those durability issues. Now, there are things that every mountain biker should do to lighten up their wheel setup, like removing those tubes and going tubeless, to once again help with those flats and allow you to run the right tire pressure. But then on the flip side, you might want to throw in a tire insert, which is actually going to be a weight penalty. You know, those little foam inserts that go around your rim to protect it. That's going to add more weight, but also give you that increased durability. So while weight matters a lot when it comes to your overall like wheel setup, you don't want to sacrifice weight for durability, being that this is the first area of your bike that comes in contact with that trail. Area number two, drivetrain and suspension. The cranks, you know, the chain ring, the cassette, definitely, you know, lighter can be better, especially when you're talking about the cassette. More expensive cassettes can be a little bit lighter and just as strong, and that once again takes away from the overall wheel weight. Moving up to the chain ring, a lot of times they have a little bit lighter chain rings. They're gonna be just as good, so that's a good way to save weight without really any penalties. When it comes to the cranks though, you want to make sure your cranks are stiff enough, especially if you're a guy like me that's hitting a lot of jumps and riding those gnarlier downhill style trails. So that's the drivetrain. Moving on to the suspension, the difference between a coil and an air shock is about a half pound or more at times. So that's definitely a way to cut down a little bit of weight. But look at where that weight is on the bike. So something on the rear shock, I'm usually not as concerned about trying to save weight on. The fork, however, really cheap OEM style forks with like steel stanchions and stuff like that, those can definitely be heavy. So getting a little bit lighter fork can make a big difference. But once again, you don't want to sacrifice weight for durability. So you see like right here, this is a 36 mil stanchion fork, a Fox 36, which is quite a bit heavier than something like a 34 or like an XC style fork. You want to care about that durability and performance as well. And finally, area number 3, that frame weight. Now the biggest difference between one bike and another's weight usually comes down to the frame, and this Privateer 141 is no exception. This is definitely a heavy frame, but for that weight, I mean, just look at that massive one-piece rocker link right there, huge bearings, the bridge on that frame right back there, super thick. Every part of this frame is just bulked up, beefy, big old beefy welds, and when it comes back to the chain stays, super thick beefy chain stays and seat stays. So yes, the frame is a little bit heavier than I would like, but man, that weight makes the bike perform better out on the trail than it might if they chose super lightweight rocker link or a lighter type of aluminum, or really skimped out on this frame just to save weight. Now we could dive a lot deeper into all the components like the handlebars, stem, saddle, brakes, but people don't break bikes down into different areas when they talk about weight. They usually just refer to one single number. How much your bike weigh, bro? 37.7 pounds. I can't post that online. A 37-pound trail bike, the pink bike-cometers and keyboard warriors, they'll never let me live that shit down. But here's the brutal truth. When I took that, near 38-pound trail bike out on the trails, it performed so much better than other bikes I've rode in 5 key areas. Area number 1, stability and control at speed. Once you get this bike up to speed, that extra mass kept the bike more planted through rough terrain. The heavier weight resisted deflections over rocks and roots and braking bumps. It tracked straighter and gave me more confidence on steep, fast trails. Area number 2, suspension performance. Now I've rode with the same suspension on lighter setups in the past, and the heavier weight on this bike actually seemed to make the suspension move a little bit easier off the top and feel better throughout the entire range of travel. And I've heard friends with e-bikes talk about how their suspension feels better because the e-bike is a little bit heavier, and I definitely felt that on this slightly heavier setup because remember, the weight is in the right area on the bike. And that's one of the key parts when it comes to mountain bike weight. Where the weight is located on your bike, that specific area where that extra weight is added makes a huge difference in how your bike performs. Area number 3, momentum. Heavier bikes, heavier objects in general, maintain their momentum once up to speed. That means when you're plowing down that trail, plowing through those rougher sections or hitting those, rollers in the trail, a heavier bike is gonna maintain its speed throughout those sections more than a lighter bike would. That means you end up maintaining more speed throughout the entire trail and therefore having more fun on a heavier bike. Number 4, durability and confidence. Now remember you guys, the extra weight on this bike came from those burlier, beefier parts. Those carbon wheels, those beefier tires, that coil shock, that rock solid Privateer frame, all those things that ended up just giving me more confidence to just smash down the trails without worrying about breaking my bike. Finally, number 5, handling and the way this bike feels. After riding this bike, I really preferred the more grounded and planted feel of this heavier bike than some of the lighter, twitchier bikes I've rode in the past. And once again, like I said, a bit of weight, a little bit lower in the frame, like that coil shock, those super beefed up chain stays, actually make the bike feel more planted at high speeds, mobbing around corners and bombing down the trail. So the bottom line is, a slightly heavier bike will climb just a little bit slower, but it can actually ride better on the way back downhill, especially if that weight is in the right area on your bike. So please quit focusing on that one single number and instead think about the trade-off between weight and durability, weight and performance. They don't always equal the same thing, people. So here goes my 3 final thoughts I want you to take away from this video. Number 1, weight matters, but not equally everywhere on the bike. If you really want to cut your bike's weight, I would focus on that rotational weight as long as you're not sacrificing durability. Number 2, stop obsessing over every single gram on the scale. If you have to, just get rid of your scale completely, spending thousands of dollars more on a part just because it's a tiny bit lighter when, let's be honest, for the average rider like you and like me, it's gonna make minimal difference, if any at all. It's just not worth it. And that kind of brings me perfectly into the 3rd and final thought I want you to take away from this video. Spend smart, you guys. Realize there's a point of diminishing returns. Don't spend more on a part just because it's lighter, and quit spending more money on that newest version just because it's a little bit lighter, or the XTR when the XT, or let's be honest, the SLX or the Dior is probably good enough for most of us. Just spend a little bit smarter. The brutal truth is, for the average rider like you and like me, weight just doesn't matter as much as we think it does. Now, if you guys have made it this far, definitely subscribe to the channel. I got hundreds of more videos just like this where I break down the brutal truths and say the shit that other people just aren't saying. And if you have one of those 3 friends like the weight weenie or the one-upper, share this video with them. Help a fellow rider out.